Scriptwriter Het Chillo. Welcome everyone to Urban Scary Story, your weekly little scary stories to help you fall asleep. So get comfy with your favorite blanket and have a glass of whatever calms you down, and please hit that like and subscribe button to help the channel grow. Asterisk the call from beyond. Can you imagine moving into a new apartment and it's completely silent? Not peaceful silent, but creepy silent. For Ellen, the only sounds were a dripping faucet and creaky pipes. Cardboard boxes were everywhere, filled with a life she didn't even have the energy to unpack. The place just felt wrong. Her eyes scanned the room, from a flickering light to a weird water stain on the ceiling that looked like a screaming face. And then she saw it, a super old black rotary phone just sitting on a table. But here's the insane part. Its cord was completely severed. It was a useless piece of junk. She's just standing there, listening to her fridge hum when the silence is completely shattered. A loud, violent, ringing sound explodes through the apartment. It was a sound from another era that had no business being here. It rang again and again. The phone was ringing. The disconnected phone was ringing. Ellen just stared at the phone, her brain literally short-circuiting. The ringing stopped, making the room feel even more tense. She slowly walked over to it, knelt down, and touched the severed cord. It was real. Just frayed wires leading to absolutely nowhere. Was this some kind of insane prank? She was about to dismiss it, thinking she was just tired and stressed out, when it happened again. One single ring. It felt like a command. Her heart was beating out of her chest. Forgetting all logic, she reached out and lifted the super heavy receiver. It was freezing cold against her ear. "Hello?" She whispered. At first, all she heard was static, like an old radio. But then a voice came through the noise. It was a woman, and she sounded panicked. "Is he there?" The voice pleaded. "You have to tell me if he's there." Before Ellen could say anything, before she could even ask who he was, the line just clicked and went dead. The static was gone. All that was left was silence. She slowly put the receiver back. The room felt colder. This wasn't an empty apartment anymore. 2 full days went by, and Ellen was a nervous wreck. She started unpacking like a maniac, desperate to make the apartment feel normal and forget about that impossible phone call. She kept telling herself it was a hallucination. Phones with cut cords do not ring, but on the 3rd night, it rang again. 3 piercing rings that were so loud, she dropped her mug and it shattered on the floor. She was frozen, standing in broken ceramic, listening to that impossible sound. This time, she didn't wait. She ran to the phone and ripped the receiver off the hook. "Who is this?" She demanded. It was the same static, the same distant sound, and the same woman. "Please," the voice begged. "I have to speak to Tommy. He must be there. I know he's there. There's no Tommy here." Ellen yelled back. "You have the wrong number." A sound like a sob came through the static. "No, this is his apartment. He promised he'd be here. He can't go to Vietnam, you see. He just can't. Vietnam." The word just hung there like a ghost from a history book. It was not a word you hear in a normal phone call. A terrifying feeling started to build in Ellen's stomach. This wasn't just a wrong number. Something was completely and fundamentally wrong. You will not believe this, but the calls started happening every single night. Ellen's fear slowly turned into a crazy, obsessive curiosity. The woman on the phone never realized time was passing. For her, it was always the same night, the same desperate search for Tommy. So Ellen went into full-on detective mode. She spent hours online, digging for the building's history, old records, anything. But the digital search was a complete dead end, which only made her feel more alone in this mystery. The apartment itself started to feel creepier. That water stain on the ceiling looked like it was moving when she wasn't looking. She started hearing phantom footsteps and whispers that would disappear instantly. Was the apartment haunted? Or were these insane calls from a dead phone making her go crazy? She felt like she was watching a tragedy that was still happening decades after it should have been over. That phone was a portal to a past that refused to die. During the next call, Ellen tried a brand new strategy. She decided to play along. She had to get answers. When the phone rang, she answered it, pretending to be calm. "He's not here right now," she lied. There was a pause. A voice on the other end almost sounded relieved. "Oh, well, when you see him, can you tell him Clara called?" "Just tell him I'm waiting." For the first time, her voice was softer. "Clara." The woman's name was Clara. "Clara," Ellen repeated. "Where are you calling from?" Clara actually laughed. "Silly, I'm just down at the payphone on the corner. My line at home is busy." She said it like payphones are still on every street corner. Ellen took a deep breath. This was it. "Clara, can you tell me something? What is today's date?" There was a confused silence. "What a strange question," Clara finally said. "It's June 4th, a Sunday." She paused. June 4th, 1972. The date hit Ellen like a punch to the gut. The static in her ears roared. It was the sound of a 50-year gap in time opening up in her living room. This wasn't a ghost. It was a crossed wire in time itself. She was listening to a woman who had been waiting by a payphone for half a century. The line went dead. Ellen's mind was completely blown. June 4th, 1972. But before she could even try to understand, the phone rang again. It was immediate, jarring, like the 50-year-old conversation was just continuing. She grabbed the receiver, her hand slick with sweat dot. It was Clara's voice. But all the softness was gone. She was in a total panic. "He's late," she cried. "He promised he'd be here by 9. He was going to tell my father tonight. About us. About refusing the draft." Oh God, he shouldn't have told him alone. Through the 50 years of static, Ellen could hear other noises. An angry shout, a furious man's voice. A door slamming dot, then Clara screamed. A scream of pure terror. "Tommy, no, don't." Then another sound. A heavy, disgusting thud. A sound that could only be one thing. Final dot, silence dot. The only thing left was the empty hiss of static. "Clara," Ellen whispered. "Clara, are you there?" She screamed the name over and over, but it was useless. She had just been a helpless witness to a tragedy 50 years too late. No answer. She dropped the receiver. Her mind was racing. June 4th, 1972. She scrambled to her laptop, her fingers flying, digging through old newspaper archives. She searched for the building's address and June 1972. It took her almost an hour of insane searching before she found it. A tiny article from an old local paper, dated June 5th, 1972. The headline, "Local man falls to death in domestic dispute." She clicked the link, unable to breathe. The article was short. A young man, Thomas Miller, Tommy, had fallen from the 4th-floor window of his apartment on Sunday night. Neighbors heard a loud argument. The police questioned his fiancé's father, but his death was ruled an accident. The fiancé's name wasn't even there. Ellen just leaned back in her chair, her face lit by the screen. This wasn't a ghost story. It was a violent, unsolved history trapped in the walls of her apartment, coming through a dead telephone line. A week later, the apartment was filled with boxes again. Ellen was getting out. She couldn't stay. She couldn't sleep. Every single noise sounded like it was from that night. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was full of what happened. As she was taping the very last box, ready to escape this nightmare forever, the phone rang. One last time, a wave of pure ice washed over her. It couldn't be Clara. It just couldn't. She walked to the phone like she was in a trance, her hand shaking as she lifted the receiver for the final time. "Hello?" The static was there, but the voice was different. It was a man's voice. It was young, and it was trembling with a fear she could feel across the decades. Did she call? The voice whispered, "Is she waiting? Please, did you tell her?" "I'm sorry." Ellen dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor. The voice from the past finally cut off. It was Tommy. He was still there, trapped on the other side of the line, forever trying to make a connection that would never, ever happen. Some calls should never be answered. Subscribe for more insane stories.